When I hear the word slay, you want to know who comes to mind? Rochelle Hemmingway. Y'all have got to check her out. Try to keep up.
You know how the slay queen does it. Doing it big, y'all. It's go big or go home.
So as you saw in the intro, this episode is with my good friend and mentor, Rochelle Hemmingway, who runs hashtag Slay to Success, and she is known for transforming the lives of people without sacrificing health, career, relationships, or happiness. And at various times in her military career, she neglected to take care of herself, stayed stagnant in promotion, and did everything on her own. Over time, she realized she needed to shift her mindset and her actions if she wanted things to change. And when she finally did, she created the career she desired and deserved. But here's the deal, y'all. As she was climbing up that promotion ladder, she noticed there was an unrepresentation of women in executive leadership roles. She also encountered many unique challenges and learned how to overcome and push through numerous amounts of barriers. All right, y'all. We talk all about Rochelle's book, Slay. And if you haven't caught on, Slay is kind of the driving theme here, y'all. Check it out. S stands for stay ready to be ready. That's right. This is an acronym. The L stands for lead out loud. The A stands for a sense of family. And the Y stands for you are built to last. Are you ready to hashtag slay to your success? I was ready, and I sat down with Rochelle and we went throughout her whole book, her whole life story, all of the lessons learned, and how she became the kick-ass leader and woman that she is today. How did she do it? There were so many barriers, so many things holding her back, and yet she exceeded all expectations and reached a height that most people never see. And in this episode, we're going to find out exactly how Rochelle did that. Okay, well, hey, I want to show you what book I've been reading. Let me know if you've ever heard of it.
Oh, yeah. I have, actually.
She looks so familiar, doesn't she?
Right.
Jeez Louise. No, I read the whole book front to back, and I have like attention issues, so like typically I do better with audiobooks because I can like drive or go for a run. But every so often, I really do just like the book. You know what I mean? I just like reading through the book, especially if I know the person. Then it makes it extra special to me.
Yeah, I agree.
So the last two books I read the physical copy of was Todd Simmons and then also your book.
Yes.
And I was just going back through the beginning because, you know, I got to the end and I wanted to remind myself of the beginning again. So I was kind of just going back through the beginning, and I gotta say, this thing is just filled with so many incredible stories, so many just memorable quotes, and it's just one of the most inspiring, amazing stories I've ever read. I really, truly loved and enjoyed this book. I took it with me on my TDY to E-Meds. I had it laid out. I was like, what are you reading? What is that? I was like, I slay, we slay. They're like, what?
They're like, who is this crazy person here? What is he talking about?
Right. But I love the book. I have it laid out too in my office. I have like this little end table with some of my favorite books, and I have it laid out there too. So anyone who comes in will see this book.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. And thank you for, I have a collection of veteran signed books, veteran authored books, and I probably have about 20 of them now, and yours is definitely one of my favorites. So thank you so much for personalizing it for me.
You're absolutely welcome.
It's all wore out. See, look at this.
I know. Like, I've been talking to some other people. They're like, this is just crazy. That's like, how did you even get to that point? I'm like, I don't even know. I just pushed the button and just said publish. I don't even know.
I know how you did it. You did it with discipline, which is in your book. So like, I love the beginning of the book is like your upbringing and your career, your parents, your husband, your child, all the things that like give you purpose and just fill you with life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the middle of the book goes into #slay, right? And kind of just like how you got to where, like the mindset that you've developed, the lessons that you've learned tied into this acronym SLAY. And then at the end of the book, it's just all inspiration. It's just hits. Every line is just hitting. Boom, boom, boom. By the end of that book, I was doing push-ups. I didn't even know how I got there. I was like, why am I doing push-ups right now? I don't know. It just got me so fired up. And then the quotes you picked too from like other people were like, you know, you start to see a lot of the same quotes sometimes, you know what I mean? And then on yours, a lot of them, like, I just never heard of. And they were just so spot on to like what you were trying to describe. So like a lot of the other quotes, you threw in some John C. Maxwell in there, which is like the OG, you know,
OG,
right?
He is the OG.
He's like everyone's like family member at this point. He feels like he's my grandpa or something. But you threw in the OG, which that guy, I forgot like how like sharp that guy was until like you reminded me and you put some of his work in there. And I was like, dang, John C. Maxwell is the man.
He
like,
is.
He can
mean, he still is. He gets on stages and, you know, I haven't seen him personally, but like on Facebook and LinkedIn, you know, when he's speaking, you know, he's a little bit older. I wouldn't say much older, but he's older. And, you know, sometimes it isn't as in your face like he probably was when he was younger, but it's still there. The content is everlasting. It'll never change. Leadership is leadership. And so he just, you know, defines it very well, where it is forever. It's evergreen, you know, so anyone can use it for centuries and centuries on, you know, beyond him when he, you know, goes to his heavenly home. He's just a great man. He's just a great man.
He is, and he is developing tons of people. Like a lot of his initiative is like building kind of passing on his legacy, it seems like. So yeah, he's awesome. So love the book. But going into our conversation here, I usually start off with 3 random questions. Well, they're not really random. I have 3 easy questions in the beginning called the Hero's Gauntlet. And then at the end of our conversation, we're going to end with 3 a little bit more personal questions that are a little more thought out. So we'll start with the 3 easier ones. Okay. I think I know the answer to this, but we'll see. Okay. First question is, who would play you in a movie?
I have probably several people, I think. Are you meaning famous people or
yes,
any random?
Famous people.
Oh, Okoye. Oh, I don't know her name I do know her name, but I don't. Like if you say it, then I'll know it's her.
That's in the back.
But her real name, I don't know if I put it in there.
Okoye, yeah, she's on your coin, right?
Yeah, she is a Marvel character. Yes.
There's you looking like a superhero.
Yeah, she played in Wakanda Forever in the movie. She's the badass that goes out there and takes her sword and starts slaying everything. And I think that she would probably, we favor each other. I don't know if we're like exactly alike or anything, but we favor each other in a lot of different ways. So perhaps she would.
And that's like your alter ego, right? Like when you're trying to tap into that different mindset where you're trying to when you're trying to do something that even you think's impossible, you kind of have to trick yourself into going for it, right?
Yeah, she's my inner muse. You know, I think everybody has an inner muse, and I know you like your eyebrows kind of like, what is that? Well, you know, a muse is really that person inside of you that tells you to pay attention to them, tells them to, you know, to feed them. It's that creativity that you have inside of you, perhaps, you know, that fear that you have, but it allows you to unleash and, you know, conquer that. So I do a lot of inner work reflection And she is one of those persons that I typically draw from, because it's like, well, what are you doing? You are not mediocre here. All right. You got to get up and you got to start moving. All right. And you've got to, get into those things that you really wanted to do. You have a lot more to do. So I think everybody has a muse. They probably haven't defined it per se by a character, but they have something that is deep down in their gut that always kind of, tugs at them when they say that they need to go and do something, like that intuition, like just, when it's time for you to go and do something, it's time for you to have a conversation, it's time for you to go out there and you have to trust the muse.
Definitely. You know who I would pick to play me?
Who's that?
Tom Cruise.
Of course. Like, why didn't I guess that?
I still love Tom Cruise. I know he got weird, but I still love the guy. Okay. So question number 2, what's one lesson that you learned from a great leader and one lesson that you learned from a poor leader?
One lesson that I learned from a great leader was the tough mind, tender heart concept. So I had a sergeant, well, he's an Army sergeant, Sergeant First Class Smith. I talk about him, I think, a little bit in my book. We were deployed together in Vietnam, and he was a team lead. He was tough, like as nails. And we were out living in the jungle. So, I mean, there's a little bit of that you have to have anyway, because there's a lot of danger in the jungles. And he protected us and made sure that we had what we need to survive, because we were in survival mode. But at the same time, he was very open, transparent, knew how to help you when you needed it, like really help you, like sit down and talk you out of fears, talk you out of, giving in to some of the things that, your mindset has at times to tell you, well, you know what? You can just call somebody, tell you to like, come get a helicopter and come out of here, right? He really taught me a lot during those 3 months we were all together. But I think it's important as leaders to, have that tough mind of, the accountability piece, the standards, all those different pieces as a leader, but at the same time, be able to be loving and nurturing and empathetic. He taught me a lot about that.
Definitely, like kind of giving you that like security, and kind of setting the tone, making you feel safe, but also respecting them. But when you needed the other side, he was able to produce that other side for you. Absolutely.
And you can even tell, I mean, his exterior was stone face at times, very wow. Just not, there was no, emotionals coming out of his face, stone cold hard. But when we sat down and talked to him at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, he was just, that was just the way he held his face. He wasn't that type of person.
Right. I think I'm like the opposite, where like, I'm like really nice and friendly, but then, and I'll earn your respect and trust that way and be transparent and be caring. But then when the time gets tough and I need to get serious and I need you to get serious, you're going to respect me and trust me enough to flip the switch with me. So
yeah. And if it's working, then, right. That's good, because, everybody has to know what their style is and be comfortable with your style. And if it's effective, and,
definitely,
that's your thing.
Absolutely. So what was a lesson you learned from a poor leader?
Oh my goodness. I got so many.
Like, where do I begin? How much time?
Where do I begin? Right. I'll tell you, I guess the number one on top of the list. You know how people just tell you what to do and they don't show you how to do it, and they just leave you struggling?
Yeah, I feel like they don't know how to do it at that point.
Exactly.
Like, you're trying to get me to figure it out because you don't know what you're doing.
Right. I had one supervisor who just gave me this hardest task. It was developing a contingency plan for when the lights went out in the facility. Now, I was a senior airman.
Like a calm out plan for like
calm out plan, right? Now I got the binder and I'm, trying to figure out, what is all means. This supervisor, and remain nameless, didn't tell me anything. Just gave me the binder, said figure it out. And then when, of course, I wasn't working on it because I didn't know what I was doing, they ended up getting really upset, and I tried to explain explain myself and try to explain to them, but I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing.
you're like, you put down like call 911. I don't know, just call CE. I don't.
Can you please help me?
Right.
And she, they still didn't. And so I lost a lot of credibility with her. I lost trust in her. I didn't communicate with her at all. In fact, she was 2 supervisors up. So I had my supervisor and she was the next supervisor. I just stuck to my supervisor. And it was never a relationship. We never really had a relationship after that. But I saw that, even when your airman is asking for help and you don't want to help, that just spoke a lot to me. I just shook my head. Okay.
Right. It's like, why are you here? Like at that point,
right.
like
Exactly.
If you're not helping me, then what are you doing?
I'm sure, as I progressed, I'm sure there was a lot of things that she was dealing with that I had no purview to, and it was what it was. That's what I'm going to chalk it up to. So I don't know.
There probably is more to the story.
Exactly.
Okay, last question before we get to learn about you and your upbringing and your career. What was your proudest Air Force moment?
Oh, man, I had so many. All of my proud moments centered around people who like to wear the underdog.
I love that.
I do too. I mean, it's so, like, you could see it, in front of your eyes, how they're digging themselves out of the hole, and they're really trying their best to overcome, like, perhaps a promotion where, they got passed over or they got administrative action from some, thing that they were, being held accountable for. And then over months at a time, you could see them grow and start maturing. And those are my proud moments. I've got a box full of proud moments. Every letter, every email, every text message. If I could go and print it off, I printed them out. All my little note cards of people who just said thank you. Or just told me, guess what happened? Those are my proud moments. It's like you're like I'm the mom, maybe, and the children are doing really well. It's kind of like that kind of, it's not, it's that kind of analogy with knowing that they're all grown up. But those are things that I think people undervalue, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of somebody to say, you know what, I'm going to dust myself off and I'm going to try again.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And part of why I started like this podcast was for individuals just like that, either they had a misstep or wasn't quite sure like what they were capable of. And then you kind of see them come out their shell, or, you have that person who is incredibly talented that's carrying the organization in a way that nobody even picks up on or recognizes, because they're not blasting it in your face or putting it out there.
Exactly.
And then you say, wait a minute, you're doing all that? This is incredible. Like, does anyone know this?
Right.
Oh no, it's, those are the people that I try to highlight the most, because they just don't know how to articulate or care to. And then when you see them get recognized, you see them come out their shell, You see how thankful people are for them. Like those are really beautiful moments. Had one today.
Really?
Actually. Yes, had one today. A lot of the COVID airmen that I had, they never got properly recognized and they kind of just went back to their duty sections. And so the CE commander was a friend of mine and was really appreciative of them. And so I held a surprise like Chick-fil-A lunch today. So we all got together and then he came in and coined them all as a surprise.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was
awesome.
really amazing moment. So luckily got to have one myself today.
That's awesome. Yeah. You got to cherish those moments, you know.
Absolutely. All right. I can't believe I'm talking to the command chief, retired, Rochelle Hemmingway right now. It's blowing my mind. And we were stationed together at one point when I was reviewing or read your book and looking at your biography. Do I look familiar to you at all? Because you did always look familiar to me. But you have a contagious smile. So I just chalked it up to, I've probably seen you in an article or a TDY and I've just seen you, you know what I mean? Like you just have one of those presents that someone's going to meet you once, they're never going to forget you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just have that vibe. So I just chalked it up to, I probably saw her at like AFA or something, that's why she looks so familiar.
Yeah.
But looking at like your record, we were both at Luke Air Force Base at that med group at the same exact time. I was in public health. So we were in different squadrons.
Oh yeah. I remember you.
You remember it?
Yeah. Cause I was leaving, I think as you were coming in. So, because I used to go down to public health a lot. I'm trying to think of some names, but anywho, they'll come to my top of my head. But I used to go in there a lot of times because I was the MDOS at the time, superintendent, and then I was a med group superintendent when I came back from a deployment. And that's probably where we met, probably for a very brief time.
Definitely. I was new to the career field. I retrained out of maintenance, so that was my first medical. So I was pretty shy, I was just trying to learn the job, and so I wasn't like, I hadn't come out of my shell yet. You know what I mean? I was still like just doing the job and getting to know people in my office, and you know what I mean? Like I was very naive, and so a lot of people that, I recognize from Luke, they're like, who are you? Because like I didn't say anything. Like, you know what I mean?
That is not typical for a maintainer. Now, you know this, right?
You're right. But like, I also knew it was a different culture. So I had to
yeah, well, it is.
I had to observe, you know what I mean? I was more in a observational part of my life where I was just taking things in versus just putting everything out there. So
right.
But I loved Arizona. I loved the hiking. Me and my wife, we just hiked and traveled everywhere as a newlywed couple.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was just a beautiful time, like in our life, where we spent 4 years just being a couple and just having fun,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Meanwhile, I was grinding, hustling, and slaying.
You were slaying. I mean, my God, getting your Beyonce on, just slaying, just killing it every day, in and out.
Every day.
Unreal. Meanwhile, I'm just, in force
You're
health.
in the hills. Yeah, you're in hiking in the hills, having a good old time.
Yeah, I'm in Camelback Mountain.
Yeah.
Hiking, drinking water, staying hydrated.
Right.
Okay.
I'm still on the base working.
Okay, so I want to hear all about, your upbringing, just a recap of your childhood. I know your parents are incredible people. Your husband's a freaking rock star. Your kids are rock star. You didn't even think you were going to have kids. Your career, you're just all over the place. You're in Vietnam. You're getting deployed. I mean, you're everywhere and nowhere. It's like,
right.
I don't know.
I don't know how my career.
Your career was it's just incredible. Yeah. Looking for missing in action, like POWs that passed away in Vietnam, trying to find their remains, trying to identify people. You were an IDMT. You just had an incredible career. Command chief. When there was like a all female command chiefs in Global Strike, y'all were That was the slay team right there.
Deuces. We were like deuces up in here. I was so shocked because when one of the first conferences that we went to, and I saw all of us, we were just in the bathroom, okay, huddling up, and we're just looking at each other going, what?
It's like a dream come true.
It's a stack on stack, and every base, every other base had a female command chief in the seat, which, was very helpful for many of us because, it's not saying that our male counterparts, because I learned a lot from some of the best supervisors were males, but when you could have females that are in the seat as command chiefs and to really share and be vulnerable about wearing all the hats, because more than likely, we're going home, we got a family, like it's this ongoing, conversation we have on got to take care of ourselves out here, y'all. We can't be breaking down, so we really held each other's hands throughout the whole time. It was awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, I worked for Chief Melvina Smith and Katie McCool. I worked for both of them.
Oh yeah.
So I'm familiar with both of them, and I saw the Global Strike female team just freaking slaying and killing it every day. And I was right there behind them, like, yeah, let's go. Mess with my command chief.
I know, right? Ooh, yeah.
All right, so let's hear about you. Let's hear about your upbringing.
Well, so my dad was in the military for 23 years, and he was stationed, different places. And some of my memorable times were being stationed in Plattsburgh, New York. I think they closed that base down. And Portugal, that was a great place to be. North Carolina, Colorado. I mean, he had his share of assignments. So he decided to go back to Indiana. My mom is from Garrett, Indiana. It's a very small town in Indiana. And because traveling all over the place, she wanted to stay in Indiana. So they decided for all of us to stay in Indiana. I was going into the 8th grade at that time. So I went from 8th grade to, of course, graduated and went 1 year of college. There was 3 other siblings, 2 sisters and a brother. And, I never really had, I think a lot of kids back in that day, though, I don't know. We couldn't be watching TV and carrying on and this and that. We were doing chores. We were doing homework. We were very disciplined children. I would say that we didn't stay up late. We got up early. And so this routine, they had us in this routine, very established routine. And so when I decided to come in the military, it was like, what? You? I struggled with my weight. I talk about that in my book.
I saw that shocked me because
Really?
you're like beast mode. So like, I could not picture you like overweight because because you've even led exercise classes and stuff. So it's like, it's hard to imagine that.
Well, I think a lot of times when we're in an environment where, you're wanting to please, a lot of things were, have more food. You can eat seconds. We have plenty, right? And it was a show that you love the food, you love your parents. So just kind of did it. And so my weight crept up really quickly. And then when I got to 200 pounds, when I was a junior in high school, and they said it out loud, and while we were getting our uniform sized,
oh wow!
And I got on a scale, and it was everyone in the room, all my high school friends, 200 pounds.
Jeez.
Okay, and everyone else is weighing like 100 pounds here, 120 pounds there.
Right.
It was the most embarrassing and kind of like deflating
Yeah, that's
moment in my
horrible.
life.
They
It
would
was.
never get away with that today. Like,
No, you
ever.
couldn't, no, ever, right? And so I decided I needed to do something about it, but I wasn't really intentional. I just started working and the weight came off. And when I came in at my maximum allowable weight. So when I got in, I really struggled a little bit with my weight, but was managing to try to, keep it under so that way I didn't have to be in the weight management program, even though I ended up there anyway. But anyway, but I got into the military. My dad, he said, "You're not going to make it." He said, "I'll give you about 2 or 3 years. You'll be back."
Oh, that's where he messed up.
Yeah, he messed up. Because I was like, really? Are we really? But okay, it's a challenge, right? And so, get into the military and really found out that I was taking on half and half of my parents' careers. My dad was in the military. My mom, she still is a respiratory therapist. She still practices as a respiratory therapist. She's 70 years old and still pulling 12-hour shifts. And she pulled them during COVID. So she's a queen bee.
Sounds like it.
And so I took half of it. I came in as medic and came in guaranteed job. And, I didn't really know what the military was about. I just knew I just want to get away from Kokomo.
Right. I've been in Indiana a few times. It's where my step family was from, and it's country.
It's very country.
And I grew up in like the DC area, so I was like, "What is this? Train tracks and cows and kids with BB guns? You can't have BB guns where I'm from."
Exactly. So yeah, and I came in and I just started doing my job.
So slay is so important. And by the way, I'm calling the episode "I Slay, We Slay."
Oh, okay, good. Yes, that's what it is.
I love it. So I just want to hear each letter, what it means to you, and a little story behind each one.
So the S stands for stay ready to be ready. I chose that specifically because of my deployment to Vietnam. That was one of the lessons that I learned while I was there. Number one is when you have a checklist and it says to make sure you have all the items on the checklist, make sure you have those items on the checklist because you never know where you're going to go and you don't want to be unprepared, right? Mm-hmm. So I was a little bit unprepared when I went out there. And so I had to get my ish together and making sure that I made those lists. I had to make sure I stuck to the list and whatever it said, you need 2 of this, you need 3 of that. Yes, you do, right? The other thing is, for me, preparation is a key for success, because I think a lot of times we're waiting. I just stopped waiting. I just started doing. I just started doing. I didn't want somebody to come tap me on the shoulder and say it's your time. So I started really learning more. I started developing my skills that was off a little bit that I needed. They were underdeveloped. I really took a lot of time to prep myself for the next. So
yeah, you were investing in yourself, using
Absolutely.
your time wisely. And then when the opportunity presented itself, you were qualified. You were ready to go.
I was qualified and I was ready. And not only ready from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint.
Right, which is like a huge part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially like when you're in a place like Vietnam, you're looking for, that's heavy. You're looking for these, previous Americans who have passed away. You're looking for the remains. You're in a very dangerous environment. No one can help you when you're in those like random countries with no base, like bare base ops. No one can help you. Like you're it.
You're it.
And so if you didn't come prepared, like,
the sergeant, of course, he helped out a little bit, but I was disappointed in myself,
really?
because I didn't take the time to really take it seriously, like the list of things that you actually need to survive in the jungle for 90 days. You need to have these things. They left it up to us and said, hey, go to the commissary, fill up your trunk with all these non-perishable foods. Well, I was dilly-dallying around, oh, I only need that. Oh, we're not even going to go out there because they said some people are going to stay in a hotel. Some people are just going to go to the site and then at night go and sleep in a hotel. I thought that was me. All right. Until I got out there and said, no, 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 no.
You're like, hey, can I have some of your green beans? You're like,
exactly. I was trading Crystal Lights for Denny Moore's.
so yeah, I know exactly what you're describing. I can picture it.
Yeah.
I just got done with EMEDs.
Yeah.
And there were some airmen who they didn't think it was gonna be as hard as it was, like, and they didn't bring like a pillow or blankets, and they had like nothing, and they had to like borrow stuff because like they didn't have anything on their to
Exactly.
sleep on. And it was like, this is for real, man. Like, you don't bring a pillow, bro, you ain't got a pillow.
Exactly. So prep yourselves.
Right. I love that. Stay ready to be ready. That was the S. Okay. So let's roll into the L.
Leadership. Lead out loud.
Mm.
That's what it stands for.
Lead out loud. I love that because oftentimes we want to retreat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like things are scary and intimidating, and our reaction as a human is to escape it, to close the office door. Let me focus. Let me get my thoughts together. When really you should be doing the opposite. You should be leading out loud. You should be getting after it and showing everyone, right? That's what I took away from your book is seeing and feeling that the presence.
Yes. So you know what? I had a chief that I was mesmerized by, and how she would go and do the water cooler walks, like go and just all the different areas and check on people and how you doing and have a little mini conversations, and how she developed these relationships with individuals. And then when it was time for us to go and do X, Y, or Z, there were no back talking. Nobody was kind of floundering around. Nobody was kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this. Everybody was like, all hands on, all hands on deck, all hands in, we're doing it, right? And she taught me that was some of the importance of, like, you got to be the one going out there. Don't shrink yourself. I think the two people just, it's like you said, it's too scary. It's too hard. All right. And they don't want people to either not like them or, they care about what everybody thinks about a decision that you made. I mean, there's a lot of that going on when it's not even about that. It's not even about that. Right. So I tell people all the time, don't take the back seat. All right. It's your hands are on the wheel. And you gotta get out there and you've got to do your part. If you get the leadership, you ask for it. A lot of times people ask for these things, right? They want to get promoted, but they don't want the responsibilities to the promotion. They just want to just wear the ranks or, get the titles and so forth. But it is way more than that. It is way more than that.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Okay. Stay ready to be ready. Lead out loud. And then we're rolling into the A.
Yeah. A sense of family.
A sense of family.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that because you have an amazing family. And I feel like, you brought a lot of those values to wherever they place you in the Air Force. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't, we've met a lot of folks that don't have the greatest upbringing. So I think you bring in that stability, a lot of that moral compass, that family value. You probably treated people in a way that they've never even experienced before, growing up.
Yeah, there was a lot of airmen that had came from that I was, had the privilege of leading, who came from broken homes, who came from non-traditional nuclear families. And, their version of family was much different than my version of family. But, I took it in as, everyone is a person. Everyone is somebody. All right. And the way that you treat people is I remember I told this in a staff meeting. And this is when I was a command chief. I told everyone that was at the staff meeting that, it's a Jesus-like behavior. You're treating people the way that they would love to be treated, and with all the kindness, all the love, all the respect, all those elements. that you somehow tuck away because you don't want to put it out there, that you really have to do that. Because, you know, our airmen, we were losing airmen from suicides, we were losing airmen from tragic, you know, accidents. You had airmen who had debilitating diseases or debilitating situations that they were involved in. And, you know, for me, it was like, it doesn't matter. If they're not your blood, that's okay, because they're your family. Because at the end of the day, right, when we're in the war, and that's how I always used to take it to the war. I'm like, we're in the foxhole, all right? Everyone needs to know that that person's got their back, all right? Like literally. That's kind of the brotherly, sisterly love that you need to be showing. And so I just think it brings a lot more to the team. It builds a team better in lots of different ways. The safety, the morale, the the trust, you know, all that is built when you're really holding people's hand, not literally, but holding people's hand and saying, you know what, I got you. I got you. Even if you do some of the crazy, we had some airmen do some egregious things, you know, and I would go to the what do you call that? The jail. What do you call it on base? Confinement. I would go to a confinement every week and go visit airmen in the confinement cell. People were just so like, why are you doing that? What are you doing? You know, you're the command chief. You should have supervisors and first sergeants do that. No, I mean they do that too. I mean, but for me, it was saying, you know what? I see you. I see you. I know that you're going to probably end up going to jail for a long time, but that doesn't say that you're not a human being. You're still a human being.
Right. No, that's beautiful. I'm so, thankful that you saw it that way and you were there for people, in their darkest moments, especially from like the position that you were in. Um, that's absolutely beautiful that you did that. And, I always heard that like people, I see you, I hear you, and you don't quite know what that means until you're not seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It feels like you're
Mm-hmm.
not even human.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not seen, you're not heard, your voice doesn't matter. When you've been
Right.
put in that scenario
Yeah.
as a human being, it just stomps on your soul.
Yeah.
You
It
know what I
does.
mean?
It really does. You know, the military is an institution where initially when you come into the military, you're stripped away from your identity per se, right? Because they're trying to get everybody to take away some of that individualism and turn it into the team, you know. So that's why they take your civilian clothes, they give you a uniform, you know, they give you social security number that you're supposed to be remembering, and you know, that is like your first name. And then, you know, and then after a while, they soon, you know your name. That's how it went for me. And it was like that time was kind of like that time in my career where I really felt like I was invisible, you know, like nobody really noticed me. I could tuck away anywhere in the corner and nobody would really care, you know. um and I never really liked that feeling. I never liked that. So, you know, I used to make sure I knew people's names, their kids' names, you know, whatever they got going on, I would know something a little bit about it. And people were so like, how do you remember that? Well, you know, if that you pay attention to what you focus on. And for me, that was one of the things that I really knew that I could connect very quickly with someone. If I just say, hey, what happened the other day? Remember you telling me you were going to go out and do something with your kids? How did that go? You know, it just opens up a whole new, you know, conversation, a line of conversation. You thought that you couldn't connect to this person, and there you go. You started connecting.
Right. It starts with caring, caring to
Care,
remember,
you got to
caring.
care.
Right. That's what I say about rank. I'm like, it's almost like they pay you to care more in a way.
Yeah. But
You
you
know what
know,
I mean?
Josh, a lot of leaders, they say they care, all right, but they don't.
Mm,
I saw it firsthand. And in some of these meetings that I was in, the higher I went, I was like, Are you sure you said that?
Right.
You actually say that?
You heard some alarming stuff.
Yes. I don't know why you said that, and at that, when you're hiring leadership, you can start challenging people. I started going toe to toe with some folks because I was like, I don't want you saying that anymore. Right? That's not how we're going to treat people. That's not how we're going to talk to people. What you did was out of line.
Right. And if that's at the top, that culture is the whole culture will be impacted.
Oh my gosh. And that's what you chase after is, getting the right culture, because there are some individuals, and this is everywhere, but in my environments that I was in, some individuals just didn't see it that way. They just saw cogs in the wheels.
Wow. One question I wanted to ask you while I was reading your book was there was a few times people, like, this is when you were already like a chief or a command chief, where they excluded you intentionally. Maybe they didn't agree with you being a chief, so they found ways to make you feel less than, or some people would make, side comments like, how you're a command, like, how, like, what, like, I can't imagine being at that level, have worked your whole life to get to that point, only for someone to like try to discredit you in some disrespectful manner. Like, how do you, not snap on someone like that?
Well, I do a lot of running, and I lift a lot of weights. But I just knew that it wasn't me and it was them. All right. And I don't know what people are going through, but for you to just blatantly tell me that I'm not going to be doing whatever, I'm the most qualified medic in the whole hospital or clinic, and you're telling me that I'm not going to be able to like sit in for, the chief as they're leaving, even though I have a line number for chief. And then when I made chief, it was just so disgusting. It was so disgusting, and I think what it was really, I say in my book, I don't really know, but I think I'm like finding out as I clear my head a little bit more after retirement is, people are fearful of people who have their own personal power. I know who I am. All right. I know what I'm capable of. I know what my personal power is. They were scared of it. They didn't want me to have that. I was already in their minds taking over.
Like, you couldn't be controlled.
Right.
Because you were confident in yourself and your values,
Exactly.
and that they didn't like that.
They didn't like that, and I said, well, you know what? Again, it's not me, it's them. And I just have to keep going. I have to keep going. I made it this far, so far. And I know that it's not going to break me, because I've been through a lot of other situations where it was just as horrible, but it's not going to break me. I just got to keep going. Now, that doesn't mean I wasn't doing a lot of screaming and yelling and crying and all of that. But I just said one day at a time, one foot in front of the next. And when I was promoted to chief, the day that I was promoted, like literally at my promotion party, the medical group, they made this sign out of table exam paper. And they put all their signatures on this exam. It was their banner. And they were in the back of the room at the club on base. And they had like, I don't know, like hundreds of people with this big old sign in the back. And they were like, chief, and they're just going crazy, and I was like, and this is for all of y'all in the back, right, who had me the whole time, because they were helping me get through it as much as my family was, because they knew it wasn't me and it was them.
Right. It's pretty unbelievable how like one person in your chain could make or break everything.
Absolutely. It is.
It's just, it can be a blessing and the best, greatest thing that's ever happened, or it can be the most
Yes.
terrifying
Yes.
experience of your life, you know, because your whole
Exactly.
livelihood's on the line and in the hands of a madman sometimes.
And people just don't understand. They're just like, there's no regard. It's almost as if like, what, I'm it, like, and I'm like, golly, how do you sleep
Right.
sleep at night?
So I'm in the same boat as you, where I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you know, when it's good, it's great.
Yeah.
And when it's great, I mean, you can do anything. You feel so empowered and all the ideas are generating and
That's right.
all the endorphins are going off and you're unstoppable. Your team's unstoppable. But I think the real challenge is getting through like what you went through when like you're this senior leader, somehow still getting like disrespected by someone. You know, it's just,
I had, you know what, it was really hard for me to see that, because I really thought when you made chief, like you get the little Dakota ring and you get all the little secrets, and people are
right.
passing around and they're like, welcome on in, da 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 da. But then when I saw, all these, like, they were like either jealous or like, like, oh, you shouldn't have got it. That should be me, like literally, I had to tell people, I'm in my chapter like 26 or 27. Y'all don't know what happened between 1 through 26. So, like, all this, like, how you wondering how I got here and this and that, I don't have to tell you how I got here. I know how I got here. All right. So I literally had a chief who was asking me, like, so I don't know why they didn't hire me. Dude, don't take that up with me. Take that up with the commander. And that's exactly what I told him. I was like, I ain't got nothing to do with that. So you see people even at that level who are vying for it for the wrong reasons. All right. They just want to have the title. They want to have the parking space. They want to have the house. They want to have all these things that come with it. But when it comes down to it, it's really how effective of a leader you are when you get on the stage and you have to do all these different things. And it is twisting and turning and flipping and all these other things that you have to do in these positions all day, every day. So, it's like, I'm glad my chapter 28 to 30 were as a command chief, because I had grown so much and learned so much. I needed that. And you need some seasoning. You need to marinate just a bit, so you can get up in there and you're just not there. Because people
Right.
want to be led, they want to be led well. And they're looking for you to make those hard calls and to be there to advocate on their behalf. And you're advocating on everybody's behalf, not just your behalf.
Right.
And some people were advocating for themselves. I'm like, there's no E10 out here. Can you please tell me where the E10 is? Where is it?
He's like, I'm trying to be the SEAC. I get out of my way. So, I'll tell you the scary thing about chasing something for yourself, for the ego trip, for the pride. Because I feel like we're humans. We've all been there at one point when we weren't quite sure who we were or why we're doing something. We are doing it for the title at some points. We're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I have been guilty of that and I have made it, and it doesn't end.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? When you're in that mindset, nothing will bring you that satisfaction in the title, in the position, in the house, in the car. It will go away. It will disappear. And suddenly you'll be back to square one, because you're still you.
That's
Still
right.
you.
Exactly. And that's where a lot of people too are having a hard time transitioning from, active duty into retired. Like, I've heard people like demand people to call them by their retired chief master sergeant so and so. I'm like, come on, please. All right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That was you when you were in the military. Now they're doing it out of respect if that's what they choose to do, but for you to demand it or look for it or waiting for it or, going in because nobody said it right or didn't get it, I'm like, so when they strip away everything, strip away all your titles, get down to the core, who are you? What's your identity? All right.
Exactly.
You got to be more than just the chief. You got to be, because you're not even acting in that role anymore. Half the time you don't even know what's going on. There's so many changes that happen in a matter of days sometimes. I'm
Right.
like, well, I can't even keep up the changes. You don't even know what's going on, and you're demanding people to call you and have them stand up and give you all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. But I'll tell you what I appreciate about your book, though. When you went through the hard times, one of the takeaways I had was you leaned into the positive. You leaned into the family, to the friends, to the people that had your back. You put your energy there versus beating yourself up and letting this person draw out the ugly inside you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I took that away, and I thought that was very powerful. And then the other thing I took away was that, you had other people's, like, your sense of family, like you had them as your driving force as to making their life better, being there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what in turn made you successful, right? It wasn't, I want this stripe, I want this diamond, I want this star or whatever. You were doing it for all the people around you. And it was that love, that compassion, that as a byproduct, you became successful.
That's it. I focused on people. That was my whole takeaway, is like, people get mission done, period. All right. This mission is going to continue to happen. Things are going to happen even when 2 or 3 airmen are out of pocket. This stuff is just going to keep going. Right. So I just looked at, what do they need me to do for them as I am getting these promotions? What is it that I can do to make positive impact and positive influence to the forces? What can I leave my mark with, right? That was my whole focus every single day. Is, sometimes I would be late for meetings and stuff like that. And they'd be like, where were you, Chief? Kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, I was out on the flight line with the airmen.
Right.
Sorry.
You're like, where were you?
Exactly. Sorry. Okay, I'm here now. I guess we can continue on for the meeting that's on top of a meeting that's on top of a meeting, right? So, that was my mentality, was airmen first. All right. I will go and see them, make sure they're all right, make sure they have what they need. And then I'll come back in here and do this business. I was rarely in my office.
That's awesome. Yeah, because sometimes we get in the habit of talking about work more than doing it. So I love that. I love that you were just getting after it.
I had energy.
You're like, I'm done talking about it.
Yeah, right. I don't a lot of times I just remove myself from conversations that really didn't I knew it was going to nowhere land. Right. So it's like, I'm out.
Right.
I'll see y'all later. And then you're like, oh, where you going? I don't know. Just drop in an office somewhere, sit down and talk to people. I don't know.
I love that. All right. So let's not forget about the why.
Yeah.
We got one more letter in our acronym. What's the why?
Yeah. You are built to last.
Dang, that we talked a lot about being built to last this past conversation here.
Man, oh man. I leaned into that really big time during the pandemic. Onset of the pandemic was really a difficult time for all leaders, any leader sitting in a seat.
Yeah, you were in uncharted territory. That's always the scariest position to be in as a leader.
Yeah, no handbook, ain't no checklist. There ain't no con ops for pandemic, right?
There's just us, public health.
That's it. Y'all were, I don't know what it looked like now, but man, oh man, we were wearing them out.
Oh yeah. Yes. I became a COVID expert. My God, I'm still getting after it. I know COVID inside and out.
probably can smell COVID from miles
I
away. Oh,
can.
you got
Yeah.
COVID.
I can
All right,
see it. Yeah.
let's see. But yeah, it was just so frightening and just difficult. People were mashing their teeth because they couldn't do what they wanted to do. We had to like hold the fence line and just
Oh, it was brutal.
it
It
was
was
just
because it had all the
brutal.
tough topics. It was like part religious, part
Yes.
political, it had
Yes.
all the touchy subjects, the things that
Yes.
trigger people wrapped up into one virus. So it
Yes.
wasn't just killing us physically, it was killing us psychologically.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It really was. I mean, I got through a lot of hard things during my career. I really did. And then only to be in the seat as a command chief for, I think, 6 months. And then all of a sudden, hello, all right, shut it down, people. And I'm all about, having a good time and making sure we go out and do all these activities for the base. That plan just crap out the window, shredded. All right, now we're back to everybody hunker down, you know.
Right. You kind of had to find a different set of skills, right? Because like the ones that you basically mastered,
Yeah.
you couldn't use in that environment.
No. And then the racial and social injustices, those things started happening and unfolding, which was just left people flat on their faces with their emotions. And it was a lot. It was very deep conversations we were having, and it was just gut wrenching. And then you go into the base in itself was significant mission changes. I mean, everything was changing. A lot of new missions were being out there, and then we had loss of airmen. And I told my commander, I said, we're gonna make it. I strongly believe we're gonna make it, and we just got to keep a positive mindset. We just got to keep focused. We can't let things bring us down. We can't have this negativity that's around us. We got to check on each other all the time, making sure we eyeball to eyeball, checking to see what our temperatures are, so that way we're not flaring up and getting in our own ways out here. And we have to stick to the plan. We have to stick to our plan, and we have to stick to our guns on this, because we're going to make it out of here. I mean, because they were telling us like all these thousands of people are going to die. I mean, it was just like in these telecom meetings, it was scary. And, I just kind of just clinged onto my sleigh. I clinged onto that why the whole time. I was like, every time I would just want to go home, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And my husband's like, get on out there. Because he was retired, right? And he's like, get on out there. You're good. I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah, you had to tap into all the sleigh.
Yes.
Every letter.
Every aspect of that,
Yes. And like the lead out loud was probably your hardest. I feel like that'd be the hardest part, right? Because like, dang, just
people were hating me.
Yeah, that's tough to be like the person that has to lead this ship. You know what I mean? During COVID? Oh, the last thing you want to do is lead out loud.
Last thing, okay, because people were calling us out of our name. People were telling us that we were wrong, but they wanted to go out and do whatever they wanted to do. All kinds of airmen were getting in trouble. I mean, I can't blame them, because they just want to be out there. Young people, that's where they were. I mean, I had to think about when I was young, right? I was like, when I'm young, I got life. I want to be out here. And then we were trying to protect them. And we get phone calls all the time. It was just like, oh my gosh.
Yes, trust me, I'm right there. I get it. I'm public health, so I know a little bit about that world. So I had 3 questions for you at the end here. You kind of already answered the first one, which was, when did you tap into your sleigh mantra the most? And it sounds like COVID was that time. So you see, we have this timer back again. Yes. I don't know what the heck
I don't either, but
it
we
kind
got
of
6 minutes.
Yes. So I got 2 more questions for you. We're going to roll into them. You passed the first one to exit the hero's gauntlet. So the second one is there any regrets or goals left unfinished from your outstanding career in the Air Force?
Well, they're not in my career. I think what I wanted to accomplish and what I was able to do with what I had is what I did. I'm good with that. I really am. Right now, I am coaching women military leaders, specializing in women of color to break their glass ceilings. That's what I'm focusing my attention on, because I know I needed somebody to mentor me more and more and more as I got up to the senior leader positions. And I didn't really have that until towards the end. Now I'm reaching back and I'm helping other women. And I'm the outsider. So I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I just know that leadership is leadership, and that you need certain skills for self-care. You need to know who you are, and you need to squash and slay, I would say slay, your limiting beliefs, because that's where we get into the self-doubt. We can't do it, imposter syndrome, all those different things that are out there. So that's what I'm doing now, is helping them to see that they can do it.
So you have no regrets, because you're doing it. You
I'm
did it in
doing
your
it.
career, and you're doing it now as a civilian. You're
Yeah.
there for women of color, for any women who was in your shoes. I think you said it. Someone told you you're going to have to work 10 times harder.
That's right.
So if
Yep.
anyone knows how to get after it, to slay, to break the glass ceiling, that's Rochelle Hemmingway. She's done it. She had 10 times the obstacles, 10 times the barriers. And yet she is a published author, changed hundreds of people's lives, and reached the 1% of the 1% as a Black female who's just setting the example. I'm so damn proud of you.
Thank you.
I really am. I'm so proud of you, because after all the trials and tribulations, you still got this beautiful smile on your face. You're still there for people. You're still giving.
Yeah.
It's just
And
unbelievable.
I will give and give until I can't give anymore. That's just who I am. That's in my blood, my DNA. I think a lot of that from my dad. My dad passed away, unfortunately, in October of last year. But he is definitely in my spirit, in my soul. I carry on him in every single day, but that was his spirit. He just loved people, and he knew that doing right by people was the way to live. And so I have there's no persons or people, place, things that I dislike. There's nothing that I just like. It was all working for my good. All right. And I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of lessons out of that. And I'm happy for that. I'm happy. So
We're blessed to have you.
thank you.
And the last question, I don't know if you can do this in 3 minutes. We'll see.
Yeah.
If there's a girl out there, a young airman who's just not seen and not heard, and she just wants to do her 4 years and get out, she just wants to give up, what's the first step, the first piece of advice you would give that young female airman that's trying to be like you?
Well, I would just say, you know what? It's not easy. You got to give yourself some grace. It is not easy to serve in the military, period. And you got to accept failure. Because I think a lot of times people see them failing something and they say, well, I'm done. All right. You got to accept the failures and learn from lessons, and find a good mentor. Find somebody who's going to literally take your hand and kind of walk you through some of the things that you're having difficulty with. All right. And even if you do 4 years, that's still service. That I always just tell airmen, I don't care if you do 4 years, 6 years, 12 years, whatever the number is. Thank you for your service, because not everybody's putting their hand in signing up for voluntary force to come serve, right? And it is not something that everyone's doing. So you got to give yourself a little bit of a break, but certainly find somebody who can help you to sort out these feelings that you have, and maybe create a plan for you, so when you get to your 4-year mark, you have something to fall back on when you get out. All right. And because not a lot of people make those plans. They wait until they're, almost ready to separate, and then go, oh my gosh, I haven't done anything. So get after something now, like do something now, set yourself up.
Definitely. Preparedness,
Yes.
discipline, all these things are in your
Yes.
book. The discipline got me fired up. I need that. I need to be more disciplined again. I really do. You help me see that.
Yeah, I love being disciplined. I mean, I just carried it in my whole life. I still get up early. I still exercise. I still do all those different things, and I go to bed early. So after we get done, guess where I'm going? That's right. I don't care if it's Friday night or not. I'm going to bed because rest is needed.
Well, Rochelle, hey, we're gonna end it here. I gotta say, I loved talking to you. Loved it. You're an incredible person, an inspiration to us all, and you're still full of love and compassion and just sharing your wisdom and your care and breaking barriers and breaking glass ceilings. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today.
You're welcome. You keep on slaying until you can't slay no more, Josh.
Hell yeah. I slay, we slay.
We slay.
What's up, Hero Front fam? Josh here, and I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to that episode in its entirety. I owe you a hug, and the next time I see you, let me know how many hugs I owe you, and we'll get after it. Before you turn me off, though, I want you to subscribe on YouTube to the Hero Front Podcast and give me a 5-star rating on Facebook or Apple Podcasts. It would be much, much appreciated to get your love and support. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us on this Hero Front journey, and I will see you on the next episode. Let's get after it.